Welcome to Solutions Rising. I'm Rachel Branch, and I am so pleased to introduce Audrey Rose and talk about what she has created with her premiere at the Adams Theater on Saturday, October 28th. And joining us, the youngest member I have ever had on our show, is her daughter, Lily. And Lily's going to join us in her little premiere TV appearance.
Yeah.
I think, yes, all of our audience will really be riveted and intrigued by her story and what she has created. Welcome, Audrey. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you, Rachel. Me too.
You're so welcome. I'd like you to start, we usually start out and say, will you share whatever you would like about your background and your heritage, whatever you like.
Sure. So I grew up in Pittsburgh. I am the second of 6 children. And my family is very connected to their cultural heritage. My siblings have all Irish names. My birthday is the day after St. Patrick's Day. And we grew up talking about Ireland and our Irish history, as well as on my mother's side, we knew that my grandparents spoke Ukrainian, but that they identified more with a Polish background, and every Christmas we had kielbasa and kapusta soup. So family of immigrants, working class immigrants, but who worked very hard and who felt that it was important to go after your dreams. So that's the type of family that I grew up in.
Beautiful, beautiful. And thanks to Ina Moore, the CEO and president of the Adams Theater, for introducing us. And please tell us how you found your way to the Adams Theater to perform for the Northern Berkshire community and beyond.
So, sorry, we've just dropped a small piece of
we don't
the
worry
snow
about
globe, so Lily's going to be under the table for a second.
That's okay. She could have play tent.
So last year I produced a performance called Mother Motherland with 5 Ukrainian actors. The project was about supporting Ukrainian culture during a terrible time post the invasion. And we performed our final performances in New York City. And Carolyn Brooks, who is programming director at the Adams Theater, who works closely with Ina, was present at one of our performances. And so she actually reached out to me, and she said that she was very impressed with our performance. Though I believe this is Lily's first television appearance, it is not her first stage appearance, because she was one of the actresses in our show last year. And so Carolyn felt that she was very curious to understand more, learn more about our project, and she mentioned being impressed at my ability to be a mother, actress, writer, director, and producer all at the same time.
We know how to do that.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that what we're trained to do?
Or we train ourselves to do,
Yes.
in spite of people thinking you need 100 people to do a show.
Well, for that,
Yes.
I'm very grateful to my mother, because my mother is mother of 6 kids, was an executive director in the corporate world, and still works. Has run marathons. I mean, she is a woman that taught me that anything is possible and that you should never let anyone tell you otherwise, So I had this crazy idea. I produced this project. I had a lot of support from my mother, as well as from many different people last year. And so when Carolyn contacted me, we had a Zoom meeting, and we understood that Mother Motherland would not be touring anymore. For several reasons, one of which being that Lily had grown and it would have required a rewrite, because when we finished the tour, she wasn't walking yet. And so we would have had to completely rewrite the performance to account for the fact that she is mobile. And so I offered to Carolyn and Ina that we wouldn't do Mother Motherland, but if they were interested, we could use their theater space, which is a work in progress, as you know, if you've been to the Adams Theater, to create a new work in progress. So Daria Holovchanska, who was our puppeteer and mask maker from last year's performance, who is from Kharkiv, and I got together and imagined a brand new performance that we have started here in residency at the Adams Theater.
Oh my goodness. So you met because of Carolyn?
Because of Carolyn, yes.
Yeah, how wonderful. Had you been to the Berkshires before?
No. I used to go to summer camp up in Vermont, and so we have driven through the Berkshires, but not for a stay, and especially not during fall foliage season, which is just magical.
It is. It's quite beautiful. So you came to the Berkshires to perform. How long are you in residence at the Adams Theater?
So we have 3 weeks of residency. And so what we're doing now is we are in the very early stages of new creation, which means that we are in research and exploration. We do what is called devised theater, which means that we have a concept, we have an idea, we start to write a storyline, but then we put it into movements and we put it on the stage and we do improvisation exercises together and we try to create images and scenes through the improvisation exercises.
So what is the performance Saturday evening? What is it called? And are you going to give us a little tip-off on what we're going to be able to see?
Sure. So we're calling it a sortie de résidence, which is French. It's more popular in France. It means end of residency. So it's not really a formal performance in the sense that it will not be a play as you've experienced from beginning to end that has been written, workshopped, finalized. What it is it's an intimate entry into the world of what we've been exploring for the last 3 weeks. So we are currently in the theater preparing an installation. We've set up the stage. We will be demonstrating some of the objects that Daria has been making during our residency here. She's been working very hard in her little puppeteers workshop. Special thanks to David Lane, local puppeteer, and also Gail Sellers, local artist.
Yeah.
Who have donated a significant amount of materials for her to be able to work here. And, oh no, go get
So this is like a peek preview.
Sneak peek, yeah.
Peek and sneak preview also. And so the audience, and it's so innovative, the audience will be able to learn about what goes into becoming a performance. But
Yes.
it is a performance.
It is a performance. We will perform, we will demonstrate some of the scenes that we are developing. We will most likely improvise. So we have some concepts, and then we will improvise on top of those concepts to perform for the audience a little bit how we develop our work. We will demonstrate some of the objects that Daria has made, and then our goal is actually to invite the audience to come on stage and to examine, interact with the objects, ask us questions. We want this to be very special. It's the end of the season for the Adams Theater because it's getting cold, and as we know, they don't have heating yet. So it's end of season, and we want it to be very intimate, special, community experience.
I don't think, except for Eve Ensler's In the Body of the World in New York, I have ever seen a performance where the audience was invited on stage. And it was astounding, so I'm really looking forward to that part. So how many people are part of this? And I suspect this is a beautiful cross-section of people from different places, amazing cultures. Or maybe I'm talking a little bit more about your workshop at the 62 Theater in Williamstown on October 17th. Let's talk about that for a few minutes.
Sure.
How did you happen to do that? And please describe it. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever been participating in. And I was going to go watch because I knew I was going to ask you to be a guest on Solutions Rising. So I was really going to go watch, and little did I know what an extraordinary experience it was.
Yeah, so basically our team is me. It started as a crazy idea to produce these kinds of projects, and I have few resources. I've had a lot of great supporters, but I'm not any kind of big business entity with a PR team and
It's okay.
and any of that. So last year we were just focused on supporting the Ukrainian actors and promoting Ukrainian culture through performance and new creation. We did a few lectures on the Ukrainian exterminated Renaissance when people asked for more information. But then this year, when Daria and I decided to work together again, I felt like it was important to add an element of community outreach. And we found that last year, the type of performance we do, physical theater, is not as popular in America as in Europe, for example, where I studied. And so we wanted to give people another sneak peek. You know, we wanted to invite people into that world through personal. Oh no!
Wow, what you got? Yeah.
We wanted to invite people into that world through personal experience. So we created a 90-minute workshop that is really very introductory into the world of physical theater. What you participated in is a lot of what our own personal research looks like in the body, as well as together, the pushing and pulling with the text. When we examine a new text that we're working with, we do a lot of this work. You know, we use the text and then we try to see how the body interacts with the text. So it's a more abstract way than classical theater of examining and entering into the world of research. But as you saw at the workshop, it's funny what ends up happening, which is that images are very naturally created through the development of group dynamics. So that workshop was a great workshop at Williams because we had a really particularly open group that was willing to be vulnerable with each other, and that made it really powerful for
And I don't
us
think
as
when
well.
we walked in there, we knew that.
I don't think anyone knew anything.
No, I certainly didn't. And it was also, well, of course, at the end, I just said that we just created peace and love right here. But the whole group, none of us, well, I don't think anybody knew each other. The men and women and young people, and little Lily, all of us participating. And the laughter and the empathy, the compassion, the movement of body. And I couldn't do some of the things because I'm disabled somewhat. And so, I mean, there's just such kindness and warmth. A lot of warmth, a lot of laughter, and of course, some of the things that you had us do were like, ooh, this is hard to do, I don't want to do this, but you did it. And I'm thinking of the back and forth where you were moving, one person is saying, I love you, I love you, I love you, and you'd get closer and closer, and then you had to say, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, and move back. This is like territorial imperative, what's comfortable for people coming together like birds on a electric wire in the distance between them. And of course, that was the only thing that was hard for me. It's very hard for me to say, I hate you, and for other audience members. But that's an instructive lesson.
And that's a curious question I have for you. Was it harder for you to say, I hate you, or I love you?
Harder for me to say, I hate you.
Because it's mixed. Some people have a harder time saying, I love you, especially with strangers, you know. And so it's powerful, it's personal.
It's interesting.
It's personal.
Yeah.
And, but as you said, it's all about the group. It's all about your willingness to try something new. And I think that this theater works because it's about neutrality. It's about finding anonymity. So I think the fact that nobody knew each other actually gives us an advantage because we don't have any preconceived notions or judgments about people.
And no expectations. We just like, what are we doing next? You know, and in a circle, and in lines at some point, changing partners. So you got to practically be with every other person in the room, and then the circle at the end, which was really just amazing. And of course, you're doing what I believe in participation. I think people want to participate, especially in theater, instead of just sitting there and being an observer. Participation, it's not, I mean, you can't have it obviously in every performance, but I think where possible, it's really nice to be able to participate. And this was fully participatory. You couldn't be left out on this one. And that was something too. Nobody was left out.
Yeah.
So how does that tie in with what we're going to witness on Saturday? And of course, we don't have enough time to get this out to all the audiences, so people that watch this afterwards watch our show afterwards.
If they watch afterwards, we're going to be on tour for 4 months, and we plan to come back to the Berkshires at the end of our tour in February, so they can come and see the final result. But this, the workshop format is nice because, as you said, it gives us that opportunity to interact with audiences in a participatory way, so that when we do the performance, they've already experienced something that enables them to connect with the performance in a way that even if you're sitting in your seat in the audience, you still can participate without coming up on stage necessarily, without necessarily being asked to call or respond or do anything. You've already had this experience of research in your body. And so when you see the actors on stage, you have a little bit of entry into the language, because physical theater is all about creating language through movement. So we're not using the words in English necessarily, although there is text, to convey the message. We're using a space, distance, movement, diagonal lines on stage. You know, it's about poetry. It's about looking at the space as a poetically rich area and trying to give the audience a theatrical experience through what we create.
Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be really wonderful. And of course, you did bring some people from Ukraine. Would you tell us how that connection happened? And of course, I want to again acknowledge Ina Moore and her meeting Monty Kovler in this connection and Shadows of Forgotten Ancestors about Ukraine and raising funds for the people in Ukraine. I mean, Ina Moore is to be commended again. I'll probably embarrass her right now on the program, but the confluence, the people that she is bringing to the Adams Theater and what she is doing is astounding. What, sweetie? What you got there? Yeah, look at.
She's saying birds. She sees the birds.
Sees the birds. We could play with that after.
Yeah,
Mommy and I have to keep doing our television show.
Après.
Yeah, we'll get that after, okay?
Tu te rappelles?
Look
À
at
côté
the,
de ça, il y a des ballons. Tu peux aller les chercher?
Yeah.
Des ballons? Tu peux aller les chercher. Merci.
That's great. That's just great.
She's just going to get her juggling.
This is an all-inclusive program,
Yeah, of course.
especially with the young ones.
Yeah, just like the Adams Theater. I mean, I think that it's so powerful and valuable to have something here at Adams in this small town in the mountains where we're having international exchange and international experience.
Yep.
And, you know, I think that, wow. I think the theme of last year's performance might be what brought Carolyn to it, because there was the confluence with Maddie's project, with the Ukrainian actors. Last year, so a few years ago, I applied to a residency in Kharkiv to write a play, and I was accepted as the first international resident.
Where is Kharkiv?
Kharkiv is about 30 kilometers from the border with Russia,
Okay.
in Ukraine. And I was scheduled to be the first international resident. Lily was going to come with me. We were going to go and write a play on motherland. And then I was accepted probably in 2021. And then Lily was born on February 1st of 2022. And then February 24th of 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. And so I had a 3-week-old baby.
Yep.
And was learning that my project was no longer going to be possible. It was not safe. And I was sad because I had been preparing for a year.
Sure.
And I was sad for my friends in Ukraine. I was sad because I had visited Ukraine and I fell in love with it. And it was just beautiful country with kind, warm people who were so excited to invite me into their homes. And I stayed in Ukraine for 3 weeks, hitchhiked in the Carpathians. I had the most amazing, beautiful experience in Ukraine in 2021. And then the invasion happened, and so I got this crazy idea to bring Ukrainian actors to America to support them, give them safe working space, and to support Ukrainian culture, because for me, I feel strongly that this war is a cultural war, and it's not just 2 years now, it's 100 years of cultural oppression. since Stalin assassinated all the Ukrainian artists and intellectuals in the 1930s. And so we based our work off of a work from 1924, off of a text, and we toured for 5 months. Now, Daria Holovchanska was one of the actors that I hired. She's an incredible artist. I hope you will come on Saturday just to see her work, because she...
I am coming.
The
audience.
audience, you know, because she's worth seeing. She's young and so hardworking and just amazing.
And if people go to adamstheater.org, they can find a place for tickets, and they can see all the performances that are taking place there.
And after last year's performance, we wanted to situate cultural oppression in a global context, because we know that while Ukrainians are still suffering and Ukraine still needs support and the war is still going on and it's long and tiring and killing a lot of people and creating a lot of damage, Ukraine is not the only country suffering from cultural oppression. We have a current war in Israel.
You probably don't know that I lived in Tripoli, Libya for 2 years and got caught in the Arab-Israeli War in 1967, the Six-Day War. I was secretary to the Chief of Information and Civil Affairs. I love, like you did in living for some time in Ukraine, I love living in Tripoli, Libya. I loved my neighbors. I loved learning the culture. And to be evacuated during a war is quite frightening. And I am horrified about what's going on there in Ukraine and other countries because of oppression. And this is just horrifying. I can't even, there aren't even words to describe it. So what you are doing, and I believe this, and I said this to Ina, artists and musicians and writers and performing arts people are the visionaries for our world, a world that is trying so hard to find peace and justice and truth and unity. So that's a little part I thought you probably didn't know.
I didn't know that, And I mean, I understand what you mean. You know, I wasn't evacuated, but I've been sensitive to cultural oppression since I sold T-shirts in my high school for child soldiers in Darfur when I was 16, you know, for the Invisible Children effort. And when I was younger, in my late teenage years, I got very overwhelmed by the weight of cultural oppression and went through a very dark period in my own life. And when I got out of that period, I made a commitment that I was going to commit myself to creation, because I was in a world that was full of destruction. And, you know, I'm not religious, but Shiva, you know, the god of creation and destruction in Hindu culture is the same, Shiva. And for me, I was so unbalanced and destructive behavior that I felt like the solution was to pour myself into my creative spirit, which has always been there since I was a child. And because I have a lot of talents in organization, because I'm American and a white American and I have a lot of privilege, I felt like it was my responsibility to use that privilege to give light and space on stage to cultures that don't have that privilege just because of oppression. So we started with Ukraine. This year we've shifted to Kurdistan. Kurdistan is a region in the Middle East between Iraq, Iran, Syria, and Turkey that was created after the First World War. And that's for 100 years has been suffering from war, oppression, genocide. You know, Kurdish people have been through so much. And it's a beautiful culture. It's in the mountains, like the Berkshires. We talk about that a lot, how our residency is here in the mountains, because Kurdistan is a mountainous region. And one of the things that's happening in Turkey, for example, is they are destroying the mountains. They are cutting down the trees, which are important to the Kurdish people, to their religion, to the Alefi people, and they are just burning mountains, you know.
Well, with what I call climate catastrophe, we're watching that all over the world, and that is now. And that's even here in the United States, you're seeing it and the effects of it. And of course, as I always say, the children, the women and girls, the disabled, the elderly, and the vulnerable are the ones that are always the victims. And it's horrifying. It's just horrifying. As you must come back again. As we're coming close to the end of this first show, do you have some final thoughts that you would like to pass pass on to our audience?
Yeah, I would just like to say, you know, we've briefly opened Pandora's box to a lot of dark, deep, heavy things. But I want to say that, as you mentioned with our workshop, there is hope and there is a lot of love in humanity. It's really easy for me to get overwhelmed and disappointed in humanity and our behavior, human behavior. But I think that each of us has a capacity inside of us to tap into love. And I think the most beautiful performances we've seen, even tragic performances, are those that are full of love. You know, so I just want to say to everyone, you know, let's tap into that love and try to find whatever is meaningful for us. And I hope that if you come to one of our performances, you'll share some of that with us, you know, because that's what we do and that's why we do it.
When you come back in February, will you be doing another performance?
We hope to perform the performance in its entirety in February. We don't have a performance space yet because Adams doesn't have heating, so February is out in Adams.
Unless we could get a whole bunch of space heaters in there.
I don't know if that's good for the environment.
Touche.
But there's other theaters around here, so we're currently, maybe if someone's watching this and has a theater space and wants to host us, we are currently looking for space to perform the full performance, which will be about an hour long in the area for our community in February.
Oh, we'll find you a place. We'll find you a place. Well, once again, Lily's premiere on Solutions Rising. She's a sweet, sweet child, and I'm so glad you brought her with you. And I'm just really looking forward to Saturday evening and seeing your performance. And this, obviously, we have just touched on, just our first conversation, we have just touched on a lot of topics that come together that you and I really ought to talk more about. I wish you every success on your journey across the states. Are you going out to, where did I say, are you going out to Seattle? Where are you going?
No, we're staying in the Northeast. Chicago is the furthest west, and Washington, D.C., the furthest south.
Okay, I was thinking Washington. I thought you were going to the other side.
No, D.C.
Okay. Thank you so much, Audrey Rose. And Lily, thank you.
you.
I hope you had a good time.
Lily, can you say au revoir?
And if each one of us picked up one problem and solved it, imagine the incredible view we would all have of Solutions Rising. Audrey Rose is a Solutions Rising, no question. I watched her turn, 10 or 15 people into a group of love and peace. So there is hope, and we all must keep praying for peace and hope, I think. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachel.